Worried about work, family, or other relationships? I'm Chuck Wolf, a pioneer in emotional intelligence. When live on the Emotion Roadmap, I use a proven 4-question framework to turn emotional roadblocks into clear next steps on air in real time. Join us Tuesdays at 5 p.m., twice a month on YouTube. Subscribe, go to YouTube, type in @CJWOLFE5, and ask to be notified when I'm live so you don't miss a show. Call in when you see the number on screen. In 1990, the psychologists who sparked the science of emotions asked me to help translate their research into everyday tools. I built the Emotion Roadmap, a simple 4-question model that helps anyone improve how they manage their feelings and influence others ethically and effectively. On the Emotion Roadmap, take the wheel and control how you feel. We turn worry into clarity and stress into strategy. Each 45-minute episode blends practical psychology, common sense tools, guest experts, and live caller coaching. Smart, capable people often get stuck when emotions run high, and this show helps you get unstuck fast. When you call, you help everyone else who listens. As I help you, I explain how the Emotion Roadmap works so that everyone listening is learning to use the process. To learn more about me, go to www.emotionroadmap.com. I have been very lucky in life and have worked with and learned from some of the greatest thinkers in the world at Harvard and Yale, other places, and I want to bring what I have learned to hopefully make a meaningful, positive difference in your lives. Enjoy and tell your friends and your family. Hi, I'm Chuck Wolf, and you're listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. In tonight's show, I want to talk about teams and team culture. I especially want to say how wonderful it was to watch a really excellent basketball team play remarkably well, inspired by a particular undersized point guard named Jalen Brunson. What a remarkable run the New York Knicks ran on. And to all my friends and family members who celebrate New York and haven't had a championship, I think it's been 53 years. Congratulations on the New York Knicks winning a championship. So that was what I wanted to lead with. But I also want to tell you a little bit about the show. So I've been doing a radio show and now this live stream for over 17 years. The show's about helping people deal with emotions. Now, sometimes I like to talk about what you actually seen in the way of performance where emotions made an enormous difference. Think about if you watched the game in the 5th game, the final game, when it looked like New York was headed back to New York City for a 6th game, and it looked like the San Antonio Spurs, the team they played in the championship and the NBA Finals championship, was going to dominate that game. And they're up, I think it was 16 points when the Knicks started to turn it around. And they had turned it around time and time again against lots of good teams. They went on a 13-game winning streak in the playoffs. They lost 3 games the entire playoffs. And the first 2 they lost were in the very first series. They dominated. And it was a team that was built around an interesting culture that came from Villanova. Jay Wright was the coach of a championship basketball team in college, where 3 of the Knicks players played together on that Villanova championship around 2018 or so. And now they come together and they're playing together on the New York Knicks. And the New York Knicks had a coach that had some tough runs himself, Mike Brown. But he had Leon Rose, I believe, was the GM that put the team together. They found some incredibly talented players to complement the Villanova young men. And they put it all together. It was a nice story for so many reasons. And again, the show's about emotion management, how emotions play out, how they influence our lives. One of the really nice stories was about Carl Anthony Towns. They call him Cat, K-A-T. And his mother, I guess, has passed away this past year. And he kept thanking her for helping him to live up to the dreams that they both had for him as he was growing up. And so there was a family connection there. And then another wonderful family connection, because where do excellent teammates come from? How do they get formed? What goes into a person like Jalen Brunson that allows somebody who's undersized and doesn't look like he should be the talented person he is because of his size, and yet somehow, some way, he dominated in that series. And he gives his father credit because his father, and this was a lovely, lovely part of the story, his father was an assistant coach with the New York Knicks this year. And there was a great big hug between the father and son at the end of this game, when we knew Jalen Brunson was going to get the Most Valuable Player Award trophy for an incredible performance where he put the team on his back. In all the NBA Finals history, I don't think there's anyone that scored more points in a final game on the road than Jalen Brunson. His 47 points on the road in a Finals NBA championship game, I think, were the highest ever. And in total series performance, his 77% of, I think it was something along those lines. The amount of points that his three teammates got were 77% of all the points the Knicks scored were Mikal Bridges and Jason Hart and Jalen Brunson, all the Villanova kids, 77%. And he scored almost 50% of his points for his own team just by himself. 45 points. And again, he's not a large man. He's a young man, undersized, a little beefy, strong, and determined. And he said he thanked his father deeply for the tough love over the years as a coach. And for all of those of you with children and families who are thinking about raising your kids and you're want to put them on a team, team sports can be an incredibly healthy way for children to grow up and to learn how to interact throughout life, knowing how to work on a team, knowing about roles and responsibilities and values and feelings and respecting one another, valuing each other's performance. One of the things that Jalen Brunson did that, again, was amazing to me was that he had the opportunity to wait another year to sign an extension. Now, he runs some risk. I don't want to say it was totally selfless. He runs some risk that he might be injured, etc. But he could have signed for $100 million more than he signed for in 2024. And part of why he did it, he said, was so that the team could have the extra money to win, because it wasn't just about individual performance for Jalen. It was about the team culture and about teams coming together and winning championships for themselves, for their coaches, for their families, for their friends, and for the town and all the fans that love this team. Now, I have to tell you, I'm a Celtics fan. I grew up in Massachusetts and raised to believe that all the New York teams were the enemies. But I've lived in Connecticut now most of my life, actually, and I found a lot of good friends who like a lot of the New York teams. So I'm less hateful towards the New York teams than I might have been if I stayed in Massachusetts all my life. But having said that, it wasn't about the New York Knicks that I was cheering so much as it was the quality of play, the teamwork, the unselfishness, the willingness to put your body at risk, take a charge when someone you allow someone to run into you so that the ball comes to your team because they didn't plant well and they didn't execute well, and so they call it a charging foul, at which point you give your body up to get the ball for your team. That takes great courage. These are big men running down the floors, running into you. Jalen Brunson was noted for doing that too. So on so many levels, he performed at such a high standard that I just wanted to give credit. And if you have a story that you'd like to share about teams, not just the Knicks, but if you got a Knicks story and you'd like to share it, I know my cousin, one of my best friends and my wife's cousin, Bruce, he's been a fan for 53 years. He waited for this championship to happen. And thank goodness he got to see it. I'm so happy for him and for so many of my other friends that really believed in this team for so long and was so disappointed for so many years. And as a Celtics fan growing up, when I was growing up, I used to root for the Bill Russell Celtics, the Red Auerbach Celtics. For those of you old enough to remember, Bill Russell won 2 NCAA championships in college, and then he went on to win 11 NBA championships over 13 seasons in the league. Nobody's won more than Bill. But it was when I was a kid, I used to think the Celtics always won. It was like magic. No matter what the score was at the end of the game, the Celtics always won. And I think the New York Knicks fans felt that this year too. I think they saw that for some reason, this team didn't quit. A lot of times at a big city, people like to leave early when they think their team's out of it, because it's not fun to watch when your team is down and out and getting pummeled by another team. And you think, well, I may as well beat the traffic. I may as well see if I can get to my car and get out of the parking easier than if I wait to the end of the game and get a little ahead of the traffic so my ride home isn't quite as long. Hardly anybody left in this Knicks playoff series because the Knicks never gave up. And you would have been really disappointed if you had given up because it was such a great performance. So how does emotion play a role in this? I started to say that Nick's dad gave him a lot of tough love over the years. And those of you that don't know what that means that, hey, I'm going to hold you accountable, my son, my daughter, my whoever, my partner. I'm going to hold you accountable, but I'm going to hold you accountable in a dignified way. I'm not going to be harshly critical. I'm not going to judge you and yell at you and scream at you, but I am going to say, hey, you know better than to do what you just did. Let's talk about what just happened, and let's see if we can find ways to prevent it from happening again. You didn't fake the ball. You didn't move to the basket. You lost your player on defense. There were so many things that you need to stay focused and attentive to when you're playing at a high level. Things that make a team really function and flow. They used to call it flow, actually. When Bill Russell talked about when he was running down the court, there were times when he played for the Celtics in the years they couldn't seem to lose, where they would run down the floor, and he talked about white lightning. I remember reading this as a kid. It was like the white lightning hit the room, and everything was like surreal. It was like we were running, and it was like choreographed. It was like the ball would go from Kuzi to Shaman to Russell. And somehow, if the ball didn't go in, Russell would get the rebound. Sam Jones or Casey Jones would put the ball back up, and it would go in the last minutes of every game, so that no matter what the score had been in the fourth quarter and the final quarter, it seems somehow the Celtics were destined to win. And Bill said he could feel that at times. And later on in sports psychology, they started to call that when people just feel like everything's going right. They called it like you're feeling flow. It was just a term that they used to talk about when you're in rhythm, when everything just feels like you can't miss. The basket's as big as the ocean. Whatever you're throwing up's going in the basket. So you can say I'm a bit passionate about this because I love sports. I love teams, and I love team culture. And I love to see that Jalen Brunson, when he was talking about his dad, said, wait a minute. And this was on national TV at the end of the game when it was all over and he'd gotten the award. He said, I got to tell you about my mom. Because for everything my dad did, my mom was just as important, because she held me grounded. She kept me, she kept me humble. She kept me knowing who I was and what my place was, and that I was part of something bigger. And that was so important to him. And I love the story of a family raising a child to be all that he can be, at the same time keeping him humble and appreciative of all that he was given and all the gifts that he had, and not being arrogant and not being conceited, but just simply feeling the flow when the time came to put the team on his shoulders and to carry them to that final win against the San Antonio team that was favored. They have a unique player, Wembanyama, who is 7'5", 7'6", an extremely talented, young, gifted player. Very young, though. Maybe he needed to have this experience. I don't know. But he had managed to get his team at a very young age. I think he's 21 or 2. To the playoffs in the final round of the NBA playoffs. Unbelievable. And they were supposed to win. They were supposed to have the better team. And yet, I think because of the team, the culture, the emotion management, the emotional relationships these players had with each other over a number of years, I think that's what made the difference. Now, that's my take on the team. If you'd like to call in and talk about anything that you felt about the Knicks, about the team, or about any team. There's a lot of great soccer matches happening today as we speak. Some of you may have seen Cape Verde's, I guess one of the most amazing performances was against Spain, where they held them to a tie. And then Iran was playing New Zealand, and my wife and I had visited New Zealand not too long ago, and I like the Maori cultures, and I like New Zealand. but I didn't want to pull for the against the Iranians, because I know that some of them have been executed because of their protest against the regime they have. And so it was like, it's sometimes hard to know who to cheer for, but when you watch great performances by teams, and by the way, those two teams tied also 2-2, a lot of ties. And yet the USA won their game 4-1, and a pretty remarkable game for the USA. And soccer isn't a big sport in our country. It isn't today, although it might be tomorrow, because there's a lot of excitement building around soccer in this country, and in Mexico and Canada and North America. So if you want to talk about soccer or any other teams that you might have been a part of, shout out to the Simsbury girls lacrosse team, who just won their second title, I believe. State title. Congratulations to the Simsbury girls lacrosse team. How great is it when you pull everything together and you get that final victory that says, we're champions now. No one can take that away from us. We made it. So if you have a thought or two about teams, team culture, I'll talk more about teams. I'm happy to talk about it. But the show's about emotion management. It's about helping you take control of the wheel and drive where you want to drive to. I always thought that the tagline should be, take the wheel and control how you feel, because we have so much more ability than we are led to believe growing up about how we might manage our emotions and how we might influence the emotions of others. And when you see it all come together in a performance like what we watched, if you watched that game on television, on the NBA game, you saw an incredible team performance. And team performances are incredible often when there's really a large amount of emotion management going on inside the players who are achieving, and also in their relationships with the others. Sometimes, and I've been disappointed in this, I've seen when certain teams, including our Celtics, the Celtics I love so much, would stand around and just watch one player who was so talented try to take and win the game by himself. And that becomes like hero basketball, people call it. And sometimes the person is a hero and he does make the points and he does get the win. And you feel like, okay, that worked, but it's not going to work every time. Too many teams can scheme against that defensively and cost you when the players aren't trusting one another, when the most talented player isn't willing to throw the ball out to somebody else to take a shot. And Brunson did that all game long. Whenever he got double or triple coverage, even at times, he'd get the ball out to another player. And sometimes they'd hit the shot, but he trusted them every time to take the shot. If you want to call in and speak about teams that you know about, if you're part of that lacrosse team that won and you want to talk about your team, what it felt like, give me a call. You can call and talk to me, and the numbers are on the screen. I'll read them to you once if you like. The way it works is you dial 402-225-0781. And after you dial that, if you don't have a smartphone, it's a landline, you put the 1 in front of it. So again, if you have a landline, 1-402-225-0781. And then it's asking you for a PIN. And so type in the PIN 882-041-574 and the pound sign. And I'm not going to read that again to you because you can see that on the screen if you're watching. So again, I hope that you feel like talking about this because it was so much fun to watch, and it'd be fun to engage with other people and hear what you think about what you saw and why the performance was as good as it was. And I'll give you a minute to think about that. And then hopefully I'll get a caller or two who wants to share their thoughts about what it means to be part of a team. Have you ever been part of a really successful team? Whether in the sports world, or you're part of a band, or you're a performing group of artists, of actors and actresses, or you've done something on a work team, something spectacular, or a project team that you were part of, a community team, something to do with your religion or a church or mosque or a temple team of some kind, any team that you might have been on where it really felt like it worked and it flowed and everything was really going most of the way that you needed to go? Or did you have a moment in time when the team went through a conflict of sorts? And I'll talk a little bit about that, because teams don't just flow all the time. There's a process you go through to get to that place. And I'll talk a bit about that. But if you'd like, give me a call. Okay. So what else about teams? Teams are basically a group of people who come together as a group, and at some point, the group may become a team. Doesn't always. What do I mean by that? So let's assume, from the standpoint of what I consider to be emotional intelligence, the idea of a team becoming a team and not just a group of individuals who happen to be in the same place at the same time working on something together. That can be a group and not a team. The distinction is we feel like we're part of something special. We feel like we belong. We feel like we're in this together. We aren't all just individually doing our own thing. Sometimes people talk about sales teams. And are they really teams? When individuals are only getting paid for what they sell and there's no benefit to them to help another seller out, another team member out, to help another team member sell more. If my dependent variable is how many sales I make in terms of how much money I earn, and there's no real benefit to my working to help you or somebody else that's alongside me learn how to do what I'm doing, and there's no real any benefit or motivating factors influencing me to want to do that, other than maybe I just like helping people. I mean, that's certainly true that I might just like to help people. But if there's no incentive based on the systems in place in the company that you work at, a lot of people don't do it. I mean, they just think, hey, I'd like to help you out, but I've got a family to feed. I've got people at home I got to take care of. I'm going to try and make as much money as I can for me. I can't take time out to help you out when I'm doing the best I can to make ends meet for my own family. Unless something about our team performance is going to help me achieve some of my own personal goals. So sometimes organizations can create a dynamic that says, hey, if the New York Knicks as a team win the championship, that's even better than just an individual player getting the most valuable player award for the year, scoring the most points on any given night in the year, getting the most rebounds, being the all defensive, starting five all defensive team in the year. All those are individual accolades and will count towards how you perform and how you get paid and how you get motivated. But when the whole team wins, now you're on the commercial circuit. Now everybody wants to have you on their Tonight shows, their talk shows, their daily talk shows. They want to have you on, and you're going to get paid a lot of money to be a sponsor for different products and services. People are going to want your time. They want to interview you. They're going to put you on podcasts. So, and that comes in part by your individual performance, but also so much larger when the whole team scores a championship and a victory. So there are ways to incentivize teams to perform in ways that are different than just individuals. And that's an important concept for teams. But what I find when I go into organizations and I start doing work with organizations is that one of the things that often happens is there's a lack of clarity about roles and responsibilities. If, for instance, I have a certain amount of responsibility in a kitchen where I'm a cook, and you have some leadership authority in that same kitchen, and I'm making something for an order that came onto that came in from the waiter or waitress or the host, and somebody's given me an order and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And you come over and you say, that's not the way I want this tonight. Well, who's in charge then of that dish and that pre-designed menu and recipe that's supposed to be the same thing that goes out every night consistently with a high standard? If the head chef, executive chef wants to change it, well, doesn't that cloud up a little bit about what I can do on my own then? But maybe we're trying some innovative things and we've talked about this, and this is fine because we talked about it. But if we haven't talked about it and this just shows up as a change in process and procedure that no one told me about, I'm angry. And I'm wondering, why am I doing this different? Why didn't somebody tell me ahead of time? Why did I do these steps instead of those steps if I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing? Why didn't someone talk to me? Why didn't I know? So you see, clarity in times is a problem for organizations because roles and responsibilities change at times. Now, how do you make sure that you're clear on what you're supposed to do and what your boss is supposed to do. It's a very interesting thing about teams because a lot of times a team member wants to be independent, wants to feel trusted, wants to be valued, wants to be appreciated for what they know. And when they're really good at what they do, sure, that's the way you leave them alone. You basically say, this is what I need from you, Joe. This is what I expect to have from you by such and such a time in a quality way and on budget. Any questions? No, you're good to go, Joe, and I leave you alone. Mary, on the other hand, Mary, you're new here, and I know that I hired you thinking you have the same skills Joe has, but I haven't seen him yet. So, Mary, I'm going to watch you more closely, and I'm going to work with you, and I'm going to kind of hover a little bit, and you might feel like at times I'm what they call micromanaging, and you're not going to feel part of the team until I feel like I can trust you and you can trust me, and we know what we're doing together. Now, that's true about sports teams. That's true about work teams. That's true about any team, school teams, project teams. But the most important feeling that team members have, and this comes from my friend Vanessa Druscott, who had an article published in the Harvard Business Review and just wrote a book with the same title, Team Emotional Intelligence. And what Vanessa has found out is that what most people want to feel like they're part of a team and that that team values them and that they matter and that their input counts for something. Doesn't mean they get their way all the time, but that they are listened to and supported and cared about. When that happens, what we're looking for is a feeling called belonging. Vanessa said it's the most important feeling of every team member is that they feel like they belong. They feel like they're part of something special. Have you ever not felt like you belonged on a team? Or is there a time when you've been on a team and it felt like we all belong and we all had this amazing ride together as a team? As a kid, I was played varsity soccer myself, and I was a pretty good athlete. And I played varsity soccer, and when I played with some remarkable kids who were older than me, and I got on the team as a freshman, which is pretty remarkable in itself. I was really proud that I'd made it to the team as a freshman, but I didn't get a lot of playing time at first because there were team members who were more senior than me who knew more, played better, were a little stronger, taller, faster maybe. Probably not faster. I was pretty fast, but they were taller and stronger. And I had to learn how to play with them. But right away, they made me feel like a member of the team. They invited me in. Even when I made rookie mistakes, they made me feel like that's okay. We've all done things like that. Don't worry about it. One time, this was kind of funny. There's something called a hinge kick in soccer. It's where the ball's in front of you and you don't want to kick it forward. And so you flip yourself over backwards, you throw your leg up in the air and you kick the ball behind you. It's a pretty impressive play when you do it right. Well, one time in practice, when I was practicing on the team, on my varsity team, I slipped by accident. I was playing fullback. I was playing in defense. I was one of the people closest to the goalie. And when I went to kick the ball, my foot slid. The grass was kind of wet that day. My foot slid out and I fell and I did a hinge kick. But I didn't mean to do a hinge kick. The ball, I was facing forward towards the other person's goal, the other team's goal. And I turned and when I fell and the ball kicked, it kicked and fell backwards and went into my own goal. I scored for the other team. It was just a practice. It wasn't a big deal, but it was very embarrassing to do a hinge kick. Beautifully done, well executed, not on purpose and into the wrong goal. So, But again, the team they just joked with me. They made me feel it was okay. Somebody else said that they had done something similar once. I don't even know if it was true, but they made me feel good about it. And they made me feel like I belonged. And that team, this coach was about tough love. I never worked so hard in my life. I was never in as good a shape as I was when I played on that team all those years ago. And we went to the state championships every year, and a few years we won. Because we were a small town, but we were that good because he believed in us. And how important is that when you have someone that leads your team that believes in you and believes in all of you and believes in all of you as a team? How does that feel? Can you be that kind of team leader? Mahatma Gandhi years ago said, be the change you want to see. Everybody talks about, I'd like to see change. Well, what about you becoming that change? be the leader you want to work for. That's something I've thought of. If you emulate and really value the leadership you've seen in some other people over the years, can you be that person? Can you do those same things? Can you provide role clarity? Can you explain to people what's happening and why to them? Can you give them what they need to feel like they belong, that they feel like they're a valued, meaningful team member? So that's some of the stuff I want to say about teams today. So again, I'm going to give you a chance to call. I've been talking a long time. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you find that this idea about knowing more about teams is really valuable to you, because we're all part of teams at different places and different parts of our lives. We all have the ability to be part of a family team. And sometimes family teams are the most difficult to manage. I'm sure some of you have had experiences where you haven't felt so good about your family. Again, that's one of the beautiful things about Jalen Brunson. Now, one of the things I've always felt about families, because years ago I used to be a family therapist, was that, I think for the most part, this isn't always true, but for the most part, parents try to do the best they can. And that's not always very good, by the way, and I get that. And sometimes it's extremely poor. But it's not because they're not trying. It's that we just don't often know how to be a really effective and a good parent. And so people make mistakes along the way. But if we know that they love us and that they really care about us, I think that's the most important thing to hold on to. And at some point, I have found over the years, particularly when I was a therapist, that people want to blame their parents for much that's happened to them over their lifetimes. And they continue to blame the parents even into their 40s and 50s and 60s. And at some point, I just felt like, you know what? Your parents did what they could for you. Take whatever good they might have been able to leave you with and let go of the other stuff. Just let it pass. Be forgiving and understanding that nobody gets this right. None of us are perfect. We're all on a journey. Some people do it better than others. I get that. Maybe you were lucky to have parents like it seems Jalen Brunson did, that really loved him, cared about him, and gave him what he needed from both sides, from the mother and from the dad. Having said that, it's really important for people to let go of the past that isn't helpful in their lives going forward. I always think, you know what? Mom and Dad, thank you for all the gifts that you gave me. And as to the other stuff, I've tried to remove some of that baggage as best I can, as I know you did too. And I forgive you for anything that you might have done that wasn't done gracefully or perfectly, but it was always with good intentions, and I knew you always loved me. So I think if you come across as loving and caring and supportive, even when you make a mistake, when you don't get it right, when you do something wrong, sure, we want to take that back, and we can't. At the same time, though, moving forward, I think people got to be forgiving and forgetful and just take the best of whatever is given to you. Be grateful for what you have, and try to make the best of whatever it is you can leave behind as your legacy. As to legacy, one of the things I'm doing, the reason I'm still doing this kind of work today and talking with you, is that I hope that all of you understand how powerful it can be to ask a simple question in life, which is, how are you feeling right now? How do you feel at this moment? If you're still listening to me, great. Hopefully you're interested, you're engaged, you learned a little bit. But how do you feel right now other times in the day? Ask yourself consistently at different times, how are you feeling? And then ask, is it how you want to feel? And how about those that you love or you say you care about, or those that you work with that feel like they want to be cared for by you? They want to be supported by you. Are you able to be supportive? Are you able to care about others? How are they feeling? And how are they feeling with you? And how do you want them to feel when they're with you? I think there's some very simple things that we can be better at simply by asking some questions about our feelings and about others' feelings. The emotion roadmap I created is designed to help people get unstuck. Lots of times people who are stuck around issues where they're unsure how to proceed, they're feeling confused, dumbfounded, maybe upset, angry, depressed, lonely, sad. And if it's not how you want to feel, what can you do to feel different and better? I know there's people out there today that I listen to them talk about politics, and I listen to them be upset about things that really they don't have much control over. And they carry that around with them. And it's like, it's depressing to listen because they seem unhappy quite a bit of the time. And I am unhappy about certain things in life and certain political events that take shape and place. But I try to focus on what's good in life. I try to focus on what I'm grateful for. I try to surround myself with an enthusiasm for life, an engagement for life, a caring and sharing with my family and my friends. And I try to model that for all of you who might listen to this show, to try to ask, what is it I'm feeling? And to see if there's a way to make more pleasant feelings occur in your life and in the lives of those you care about, that you love, that you support, and that matter to you. Really, to everybody. There's this Willie Nelson song, "Live Every Day of Your Life as if it was your last, because one day you're going to be right." I love that quote. Now, it's not original to Willie, but he put it in a song. And he said, treat everyone the way you want to be treated and see how it changes your life. I love that too. You may or may not like Willie Nelson or his politics or whatever it is about Willie, but he's written some great lines, and those are two of them, I think, that are just fantastic. And again, he didn't originate that. I mean, the golden rule is sort of treat everyone the way you want to be treated and see how it changes your life. But do it. Don't just think it or say it or write it. Actually treat everyone the way you want to be treated. I am constantly reminding myself, especially when I'm upset about something. I had a charge card the other day, a credit card company that charged me something. They said they can't find the charges, but it was their company. It was clearly on my credit card. And it was a fraud. Somebody found my number or somehow and got a number. And they had it. So I called the credit card. I said, I did try to get this removed because it's not a legitimate charge. And they said, we have to issue you a new credit card. Now I'm upset because this credit card is tied to a number of vendors, and now I got to do things. But now I'm not upset with the person I'm talking to. They're being very helpful to me, but I'm upset, and that's starting to come across. And I say to myself, treat everyone the way you want to be treated and see how it changes your life. And so instead of being angry or upset, even though that's what it was, the occurrence because of all that was happening, nothing to do with the person I was talking with, but just how I was feeling, I changed my tone. I changed my voice. And all I did was say, I'm so thankful that you're being so helpful, and thank you. And I would appreciate it if the car could get here quicker than maybe whatever. And so everything changed because I walk around thinking like this. How do I treat everyone with kindness? How do I treat everyone the way I want to be treated? And I don't always catch it. I don't always get it right, but I get it right a lot more than I used to because I think about it a lot. So I encourage you to, when you're part of a group, make it feel like a team by helping everybody to feel like they belong. Many, many years ago, I watched a video by Rosameth Moss Cantor, who was a Harvard Business School professor. She's still around. She's in her 80s now, I guess, but I think she's still teaching at Harvard. And she created this video called O, the Tale, T-A-L-E of O. You can look it up on YouTube, and it's this really cool video about X's and one O. And you see a lot of the things that resulted in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all the work that we tried to do to try to make things right with people. And unfortunately, there's a lot of reasons why that didn't work out the way it should have. But the goals were good. The goals were good. And what the Tale of O, all these years ago, I remember seeing this 1980s at Harvard Business School when I was there. The Tale of O was a story about X's talking about an O. Like when you're the O, the only is what they said. You're the only person of this faith, of this color, of this race, of this religion, or whatever it might be. So tell me about, what do O's think about that? Or did you see what that O did? I knew we didn't want O's around here. Or should we invite more O's? This seems like a good O. And it's such an interesting video because it helps you understand what it feels like when you're the only one. Now, for me, I actually didn't remember it quite like that. I remembered it as the other, what it feels like to be the other, to be the stranger, to be the one not welcome, to feel like you're the one that doesn't belong. And my journey, and hopefully part of the legacy I leave behind, is something where we focus on the idea that all of us at different points in our lives may have been the only. We've certainly been the other. We've certainly been the stranger from time to time. And you could be part of any community and still be a stranger, even if where you grew up you weren't a stranger, but you moved to another place. Maybe you were the only American in a different country. Maybe you're the only white person in a neighborhood where most people have other colors. Maybe you were a Democrat and you're surrounded by Republicans, or the other way around. All these ideas sometimes challenge people in ways that make it hard to feel like we all belong to the same human race. And we all, at some point, want to feel like we're part of the same team, fighting for the same goals, trying to treat people with kindness, with respect, valuing everyone. And I think there was something from Star Trek. Gene Roddenberry had a wonderful vision when Star Trek was created. And one of the things he did was with the Vulcans, he had some philosophical concerns he wanted to share. And he talked about IDIC. That was the Vulcan philosophy. And and it remains with me. I still remember it to this day. Infinite diversity, ID, infinite diversity and infinite combinations. Bringing all of us together with all our differences, at the same time recognizing we're all part of the human race, we're all part of the same team. We're all aspiring to make the world hopefully a better place where all of us can exist and enjoy one another and benefit from one another. And teams where you feel like you belong, where you feel like you're special, where you feel like you matter, you feel like you are caring about others and others are caring about you. And you know what your role is, and you know what your responsibility is, and you recognize that roles and responsibilities may change over time, and you talk that through, and you have a process for making decisions even when you disagree. And you know that conflict exists, and conflict actually causes people to think differently, more creatively when we don't agree, and not one of us or any of us are totally right, that maybe a better possible version of whatever it is we're trying to solve, whatever problem or opportunity we're trying to capitalize on, we're going to have a better approach because we listened deeply to one another and we valued our differences and we appreciated those differences, and we're grateful that we're willing to be able to speak openly and honestly with one another in an authentic way. And we're not worried about having to be in a safe space, because our safe space is with each other, because we know we care about each other and that we value each other's input even when it's different and we disagree. So those are some thoughts I had about teams and teamwork. And I realize nobody called in today, and that's not unusual, I guess. But hopefully at times we will have people who feel like they want to call in. I'll give you one more chance at this if you want. 402-225-0781. That's the number. The PIN 882-041-574 and the pound sign. Well, in any case, I want to thank Simsbury Media for hosting this, and Cole for being so attentive and having everything ready. And while we haven't generated a lot of phone calls here, I do hope you're enjoying listening to the show, and that the show is giving you some things to think about that makes life better. My goal for the show is to help you understand that this emotion roadmap, which starts with, what are you feeling about something that you haven't figured out yet, where you might be stuck? What are you feeling? Is there anyone else that's key? What is he or she or they feeling? Would there be a better, more ideal feeling that you might want to feel? How do you want to feel? How do you want others to feel that are involved? And what can you do to get there? What can you do to make the transition happen? And I hope that what you've learned a little bit about teams today is, if you want teams to function as a team and not just a group of individuals who happen to be together working on something, I think the difference is focus on how to make them feel like they belong, that they're valued, that they matter, that you care about them. Hold them accountable, One of the fellows I work with recently in recent times said, you know, Chuck, emotional intelligence sounds kind of soft, but let me tell you, you ask me how I want people to feel? I want them to feel accountable, because when people are accountable, life is good. You know, you can count on the person beside you getting to you what you need to get done on the time that it's supposed to be there, in a way that it's supposed to come into you, with high qualities, on time, on budget. When we can make life better, it's because people are being accountable. And when they can't get something done, they let you know as soon as they know, so you can make other plans. Life is good when people are accountable. But holding people accountable, you have to do it with dignity if you want to get a team to feel like a team and not just a group. So thank you for that. Again, I'm Chuck Wolf. You've been listening to the Emotion Roadmap. Take the wheel and control how you feel. I hope you found the show somewhat entertaining and that you found some food for thought in this, and that you find a way to make the teams that you're a part of truly feel like teams where everybody feels like they belong. Thank you to Simsbury Media for hosting the show, and Cole for taking care of this and getting this upright on my website and on the Simsbury Media website. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed being here, and I was glad to be able to talk about the Knicks and the wonderful performance by a young man named Jalen Brunson, who is obviously already accomplished great things and probably more to come. So with that, let me sign off and say thanks and goodbye. And I'm on the year on Tuesdays, typically from 5 to 5:45 p.m.
For over 40 years, SCM
has been the voice of our town,
bringing us together through local programming,
education,
and live broadcasts.
SCM isn't just about television.
It's about empowering our community,
ensuring our voices are heard during government meetings,
and celebrating milestones
like our high school graduations.
But today, SCM faces a challenge.
Our funding structure is based on television subscriptions.
And it's no secret, people have been cutting the cord.
With a shift to internet-only subscriptions,
SCM receives less revenue,
even though all our programming is freely available online.
We need your support.
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 Your donation can make a difference.
It will ensure that SCM remains open,
continues to educate our youth,
and keeps our community informed.
Thanks to SCM, I've been honing my creative skills, helping me work towards my college degree.
SCM is crucial for keeping our community connected.
SCM isn't just here to broadcast local events. They're actually preserving Simsbury's history.
Join us.
Join us in preserving Simsbury's voice.
Simsbury's voice.